video, I'll be discussing all the GDPR features. The first area we'll be discussing is the right to consent. So basically, this is where you are seeking consent from either a contact or a candidate regarding keeping their data. So how you would get this all set up in Colleague is you'd go to the admin section and then you'd go to where it says global settings. And then you'd go to where it says candidates, and then it says here enable GDPR right to consent feature, and you'd need to make sure that this is on yes. And then you'd do the exact same for contact, enable GDPR right to consent feature, and you'd select again yes. And then if you go to where it says view all and then look for GDPR and then go down to the three options here. So one of them says email body content. So this is basically when you send an email to a contact or a candidate, in that email that you're sending across to get their consent, it will have like information about whether they are happy to consent or not. And basically what you'd pop in here is like all the information you'd like to appear in the email. And then the next option along where it says to clicking the yes link in the GDPR consent email. So say for example they are happy to give consent and they click the yes link, what you'd pop in this option here is the link to where it would take them once they've selected yes, and this will be the same again but for when they've selected no. So the web page they'll go to if they've selected they're not happy to give the consent. In this next part of the video, I'll be demonstrating how you can send out the GDPR consent via email and also how you can pop it into a record if you've done it manually. So for example, you've had a conversation over the phone. Say for example, you've had a telephone conversation with a contact or a candidate regarding GDPR and they're either willing to give consent or they're willing not to give consent. How you would put this into the record is you'd go to where it says GDPR consent not given. It always says not given to start with because you haven't received any consent from them, either them saying yes or no. And a blue bar will appear. In this we'll have three different fields. The first one is whether or not they've given you consent. So select yes if they have, no if they haven't. And the date that you requested it on, so say for example you had the telephone call today, you'd select today's date. And then when you received the response is when you'd obviously be filling out this information, which is why it auto-fills it to the date and time. And then you press save, and what this would do is change this to say GDPR consent given or not given. And it would have in the history that they have either agreed or disagreed, and it will create a history record. So that was how you would do it manually. If, for example, you'd like to send them the option to consent via email, you'd press the email option along the top, and then you'd go down to where it says request GDPR consent. And then you continue popping the information in that you'd like in the email. So for example, the subject, or if you've got any merge fields you'd like to add, or templates or any script you'd like to add to the email. But what you'll notice is in the email it will have a link to the yes option and the no option, which you've set in the admin section as discussed previously. And once you're happy with the email, if you select send, it will send those options over to the candidate. So if I open my emails quickly, so once they've received the email, they'll be able to select which option they'd like. So in this case, we'll select yes. And then that will take them straight through to the link that you've popped in the admin section. And this is just where our link would take them. So if you've received the information that they're happy to consent to us keeping that information within our records, and that it will update within their record in Colleague as well. Okay, so if we head back to Colleague and refresh the page, okay, so once that has refreshed, you'll get a notification, and if you select it, it'll basically let you know that that person has given you consent or hasn't given you consent regarding GDPR, and it also gives you a link to that record, so if you select that, it will take you straight through to that record. In this next section of the video, I'll be going through the right to be forgotten. This is in the case of a candidate or a contact requesting their details to be removed off the system. So how you'd get this all set up from an admin's perspective is you'd head to the admin section within Colleague and you'd go to where it says user group permissions. As an admin, you'd need to make sure that the option that says delete records is set to full access, and if you go down to where it says candidate, you'd need to make sure that where it says delete candidate record is full access, and the same again for contact, delete contact record, and it needs to be full accessed. And then if we head to the admin section again, where you'd be able to see the deleted records is the option down here where it says deleted records. And in here are all the records that have been deleted, and it will state the date when it was deleted and who it was deleted by. And you can select the record itself, but what will happen is if you do this, it will take you through to the record. However, it will be described as a shall record, and what I mean by this is all the information regarding record before it was deleted will be gone. So their name, all of their personal details, any like addresses, history, documents attached, and you'll find as well that in the history section it will tell you the date in which it was deleted, and all the other like information. For example, if it was against any kind of requirements, it will be taken out of those long lists or short lists for those requirements, and again all the personal information will be gone as well. How you would delete a record is you would head to that record, go to where it says view more, and then you'd go down to where it says delete record, and a blue bar will appear basically saying that all the information within this record will be deleted as well, and this cannot be undone, and just basically making sure that you're definitely sure you'd like to delete this record. And if you are, you select yes, and then if we refresh, it will now say this record was deleted by and who it was deleted by, and the date of when they deleted it, and you can just press OK. And once you've deleted this record, all the personal information will have disappeared, so their name, their gender, email address, numbers, anything like that. And for example, their CV or their spec CV will be gone. If they're attached to any requirements, so if they've been longlisted or shortlisted against a requirement, they were removed from those lists. If they had any documents that were attached, they'll be gone as well. And you'll also notice that if they've had any notes against them, they'll be gone as well. However, their secondary information, so for example their histories, the histories that are made against that record, or the skills that were popped in, or for example if they've had any experiences, they'll all still be there for now. However, they'll delete overnight, and this is due to basically receiving optimum performance from the system. In the final part of this video, I'll be running through the right to access. So this is if a candidate or a contact would like to access all the information that you have against them, and how you would do this. So if you go to the section within Colleague where it says Report, and go down to where it says GDPR Entity Details. In the first drop down, it basically asks you what the entity type is, so you can either select contact or candidate, and then you'd put in the entity ID, so that's 1177. And then here you have the option to select this, where basically if there's any histories attached to that record, it will include them in the report that you're creating, or you can leave it blank and it won't include them. So for the sake of the video, we will include them. And then in this section here, you pop in the date range of the information that they'd like to receive. So say for example it's the start of this year until the present day. You would pop in August the 5th. And then you'd press the option along the top where it says Run Report. And basically what will happen is it will draw all the information from that record within that time frame. So it'll have all the basic details, and then if you go to the next page, it'll have any notes, and then if you go to the next page, it'll have any skills. If we go to the next page, it'll pull through any custom fields that are attached to this record. It'll pull through any checklist items, any experience records, any requirements that this record's been associated with, any interviews that they've gone for, any placements they've been attached to, and all the history if you've selected that option as well. It will pull through all the histories. Okay, so if you're happy with all the information, you select this option here, and then you can go down to either Excel, PDF or Word, but in this case we'll do it for Word. And what this is doing is it's creating a document with all the information that has pulled through in this report. And what this will do is pull through in a Word document all the information that we saw within that table, and you can edit this, put a header in, anything like that, and then you can use this document to send over to the candidate or the contact that's requested their details. I hope this helps.